nuclear deal. President Trump announced that the U.S. will withdraw from the Obama-era deal. He said it yesterday.
I am announcing today that the United States will withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal. America will not be held hostage to nuclear blackmail. We will not allow American cities to be threatened with destruction, and we will not allow a regime that chants death to America to gain access to the most deadly weapons on earth.
Meanwhile, the country erupted in anti-American protests after that decision. Iran's supreme leader defiant, pledging to keep spending on its ballistic missile program. He also said the president made a mistake. Joining me right now is the special assistant to the president and National Security Council senior director for international negotiations, Victoria Coates. Victoria, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Maria.
Well, the president has been suggesting what a terrible deal this was throughout his campaign and throughout his presidency. So we were expecting the U.S. to pull out. But what's next? A lot of people, Victoria, this morning are saying, what's the next step or the plan that the president has in place going forward?
Well, I think he was very clear about that yesterday when he talked about the reimposition of sanctions. Originally, what brought Iran to the table was extreme pressure. Economically, and so that's what the United States will be rolling out over the next 90 and 180 days.
Okay, but with these sanctions, what if other countries do not follow in on those sanctions? Will they be as effective if, for example, the European Union stays in place, stays in the deal, and does not institute such sanctions?
Well, I think we'll be, of course, coordinating very closely with our allies, as the president has been doing over the last weeks. But the United States is the largest economy. We're the one that has the most leverage, and we can put the most pressure on the Iranian economy. I think what you said at the beginning about Rouhani vowing to continue to spend on military programs was really telling and illustrative in a way of what's absolutely wrong with this Iranian approach. They're wasting money on things like that, not investing in their economy at home.
Right. And that's why the economy has been just really weak. In Iran, these sanctions will only make it weaker. Tell me where you see the biggest bite in terms of the sanctions being put back on in Iran.
Well, I think it's both, as you said, on the petroleum sector and then also on the financial sector. Those are the places we have the most leverage and where we can really put a lot of pressure on them. And then, of course, the path is there for the regime. If they want to get out from under these sanctions, the president's been very clear about what his conditions are. It's the same thing for North Korea.
Right, right. And let me ask you one more question about this, because people are wondering what happens with those companies that decide to continue doing business with Iran. So we know that as an American company, Boeing will not sell jets to Iran, but Airbus is going to be selling jets to Iran. What is the U.S.'s position on that? Would we sanction Airbus?
Well, we're being, I think, very strong on this, that we're encouraging these companies not to do business with Iran. I mean, it's a pretty simple choice. Would you like to do business with that economy, which is basically a Ponzi scheme, or would you like to do business with the United States? And so I really hope that all of these companies, our ambassador to Germany, Rick Grinnell, was very clear about this yesterday, that they would give this a lot of thought before they decided to enter into those contracts.
So do you think that the European leadership right now is considering ways to work with the United States and push back at Iran, or are they steadfast in terms of we're going to stay in this deal?
No, I mean, I think they've also been very clear. I mean, they have their views on the JCPOA, but they've also been pretty clear about its shortcomings and their willingness to work with the president on a better deal, something that is actually in our favor and is not so heavily weighted toward the Iranians.
So I guess what I was asking you is, do we know that this is over, that the Europeans will not, get out of this deal? Or is there still negotiation and thought to be done on the European side?
Oh, absolutely. And I think the president's meetings with both Chancellor Merkel and President Macron last week were extremely productive. They didn't get the result they wanted, but I think those conversations will absolutely be ongoing. And they saw what happened overnight in Tehran. I mean, this is not a friendly nation, and hopefully we will get to a better place with them.
When you say what happened overnight, you mean the burning of the American flag and the chants of death to America?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, because we got out of a deal.
Were you expecting that? I mean, yeah, it was pretty significant that what we saw overnight, right? I mean,
they've been doing it for
that.
40 years, so yes, it was not a big surprise.
Right, sure. The president also announced some news yesterday, aside from pulling out of the Iran deal, announcing a surprise visit for Mike Pompeo. Listen to this.
At this very moment, Secretary Pompeo is on his way to North Korea in preparation for my upcoming meeting with Kim Jong-un.
Victoria, that was a big surprise for many of us. Secretary of State Pompeo in North Korea for a second time now, already making a splash with a toast at a working lunch with North Korean officials. He said this: for decades, we have been adversaries. Now we are hopeful that we can work together to resolve this conflict, take away threats to the world, and make your country have all the opportunities your people so richly deserve. Pompeo's surprise trip to the Korean Peninsula comes ahead of this historic trip between President Trump and Kim Jong-un. What was the reason for that? Tell us what the U.S. is trying to accomplish.
Well, I think the president very deliberately linked these two things in that announcement yesterday. It wasn't an accident, the sequencing of it. I think what he was trying to express is that the United States is open to negotiation. We do want to come to a better place with these very adversarial regimes, but that the JCPOA wasn't the way to do it. He's charting a new path with North Korea, where rather than trying to incentivize a rogue regime to come to the table, you instead exert maximum pressure on them so that they know that you're not kidding around. You have a credible threat, and then you say, okay, if you are ready to come to the table, the United States is ready to talk to you. The president understands the threat posed by North Korea, and it's something he very much wants to mitigate.
When will we learn when the date and place is for the meeting with Kim Jong-un?
That's the president's announcement to make, so I'm going to let him talk about that.
Let me turn to another story that we've been following, and that's Gina Haspel, President Trump's choice to head the CIA. She'll be put to the test during her confirmation hearing before the Senate Intelligence Committee today. A fierce debate has engulfed Washington over Haspel, a career undercover spy, suitability to run the agency. Victoria, what are you anticipating for Haspel's hearing later today?
Well, it's going to be a tough hearing, of course, but I hope that they will be fair. I mean, Gina's terrific. She is an absolute consummate professional who's come up through the ranks. She's earned this through her own grit and determination, intelligence. I think she's the perfect candidate to run the agency during this period. And I'm very hopeful that, as Senator Cotton said earlier today, he anticipates her having some pretty broad bipartisan support when this is over.
All right, we will leave it there. Victoria, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Maria. Enjoy Las Vegas.
Victoria Coates, thank you so much.